Hey y'all. I want to talk about parties today. They come in a wide variety, of course, and what I'm referring to here is more of the generic college party, but it really branches out into all life. I mean, for a lot of people, high school or college doesn't ever end. And in this video, I want to include a few experiences of my own, but for the most part, I'm going to be reading through Reddit and looking at people that likely are in the club or androgynous themselves and don't have the alien perspective of a bio female or a bio male when they go to a party and feel generally ostracized. Maybe one person talks to them, or yeah. So, going through Reddit, and I pulled up a few of these. Let's start here. So, someone writes, I feel boring and uninteresting because I don't like parties. I'm currently 22 and in my last year of college. Lately, I've been experiencing waves of depression because I feel like something is wrong with me because I don't like to go out on weekends. Can agree with you completely. All of my roommates drink their all my roommates drink, their friends drink, and almost everyone I know likes to go out and drink. My issue is that I don't see the point. Why would I go out every weekend to have shallow conversations in a loud environment just for a chance to drink until I want to vomit? What's fun about that? So true. That is the essence of a party. It's shallow, it's lame, and uh, the generic party when I went to school out in Boulder, Colorado. There's this area called the Hill. That's where the majority of the house parties were, the fraternities were located. And most of the fraternities wouldn't even let you in unless you had like 3-to-1, 4-to-1 girl to guy ratio because their whole goal is to get laid or increase their chances of doing that. And maybe even having beyond that, menage a trois or whatever the heck these people wanted. So there was a couple of fraternities that would let, say, your standard college person in just to hang out and talk and socialize and whatnot. And while I was appreciative for that, it still was not that fun at all. Usually a party would be um, a keg of beer, crappy beer. They might have a few handles, as they call them, or things, vodka, hard alcohol. And then, not always, but oftentimes, especially where I was in Boulder, you'd have a room off to the side that would either the door was closed or slightly ajar, and that's where people would smoke pot. And that was generally the better experience. I've always preferred smoking pot to drinking alcohol. I've never liked drinking alcohol. Um, the first time I drank alcohol, I was 12 years old. It was at a New Britain Rockcats baseball game with my dad gave me his beer and he's like, "Are you sure you want this?" I'm like, "I'll try it." And it tasted like pee and it's like some standard, corporate beer that you get at the baseball game that's overpriced. And it's funny growing up. My parents would go to parties and stuff with their friends, not like all the time, but maybe like once every couple weeks or once a month, something like that. My dad was never a big party person. Um, and they would bring home a beer once in a while, and it would sit in the fridge for years. And I remember there was one beer that sat there for like it seemed like a decade. Like it just was in there forever. No one drank it. No, like I didn't care to drink. I never felt like the inclination to. And whenever I did, like I go out and get drinks, it was because my friends wanted them, or I was hosting uh, a quote unquote party and ensconced in this world without knowing the gang signs, the androgynes, and it's not. I recall vividly being in high school and sneaking in. I don't know, like a 12 pack of beer or something. Maybe even I mean, it might have been more, and it was just for my friends. Like I would have one or two and be kind of like, ugh, it doesn't taste good. Don't like it. Tastes like pee. And I recall watching a Mag Bitter Truth video on alcohol a while back. Finding that again, and he was just talking about how they probably do pee in the beer, and it is this idea of keeping down the common person. Like you're not in the high wealthy class or whatever. they're going to give you alcohol and push alcohol like crazy because it's poison for your mind, brain, spirit, just for you in general. And then yeah, it's called spirits because I know when you're really drunk on alcohol, it's not even you that's there. It's like some other thing is communicating through you. You're not present. It's like you drink alcohol to suppress your own self, and then out comes this demon or this more feral version. And it's just like you become more of like a shock jock mentality. It's just saying things to get laughs, and it's not genuine. And I've heard many people say that alcohol is like a truth serum, and I think in many ways it can be, but it's like, do you want to have things told to you in that sense, or would you rather have somebody come to you sober and tell you earnestly and honestly? And I think I'd much rather prefer the latter, because I've had, I've heard people going through this kind of truth serum, and it's like the next day they're like all embarrassed and obviously hungover. That's a big aspect of why parties stink, is because at least in America, I mean, I haven't partied abroad. The emphasis is on alcohol, and if it wasn't there, people would often leave or they would consider the party lame. But I can safely say that I've never been to a very good party. Like there's, and if it was like a small, less than like 8 people or less or something, and the emphasis was like playing a game, and it wasn't such an emphasis on drinking. It's not that I think that you can't get in groups and have fun with people. It's that the emphasis is so often on this just shallow version of how we can explore the idea of a party. So without further ado, let's keep going. So yeah, don't get me wrong. I love talking and hanging out in small groups. That's exactly what I was talking about, especially one-on-one. Sometimes I smoke, and I really enjoy just smoking and relaxing with one or two other people, just talking. That was me. I would go to these parties, like I said, there was like that cannabis room or smoking room, and I would hang out there. Occasionally, I'd go out to like I have a couple of memories of going out to the deck, and some guy would be pretty drunk, and he'd have a cigarette in his mouth and offer me a cigarette. And I never liked cigarettes, but I would just kind of blow it out. I would have one with them and just blow it out and listen to them regale me. And then when I would try to communicate, they would just look away, ignore, and just do what they do. But yeah, I think even for like the regular person, it's just not that fun. And people are just trying to sound interesting when it's like, be yourself. I don't care about your attempt to appeal to me and be interesting, because it's not you. So keep going. This has started to depress me because I find very few people on campus who are liking me. Dating has sucked because almost every girl I've tried to talk to seems to be, to varying degrees, like to do those things every weekend. I've been called lame just because I want to spend time alone. And that was a big drive for it too. So when I was in freshman year of college, that's when I did the most of my partying, freshman, sophomore year. It's mostly freshman. It's kind of like it just went down every year. I didn't By senior year I wasn't partying at all. I was just completely away from it. Thought the whole thing was disgusting. Maybe I'd pop in for like a random one, but it was not. I never wanted to go. Anyways, I had this quote unquote friend would wear the Obey Andre the Giant shirts, Supreme stuff, like a very strange behavior from this person. And this person always wanted to get to party, and he would steal alcohol at parties. And I too stole alcohol, but it was because I was with him. Like I wouldn't steal alcohol on my own. I did steal cannabis once. I feel bad for that. I was in a rough patch my 18 through 20 years of life, and making really dumb decisions just because like I wanted to rebel against the kind of, I don't know, just the way I felt like I was being indoctrinated to be. And I feel like even that, like that rebellion phase is very much indoctrinated. I would have never done those things had they not said, "Oh, you can't have alcohol till you're 21," and then sneaking it, or you can't smoke cannabis. So of course I'm going to smoke it. And I think cannabis has been more helpful, of course, than alcohol. There's no hangover and whatnot, but that's besides the point. I'm at the point now where I'm trying to remove cannabis from my life. So it's been a interesting journey, but it's just I like dreams, and cannabis is kind of fallen by the wayside for me. And I am very present with my family, but to be even more present and be just I don't even know where it's going to go with just with a life that's not in that world whatsoever. It's exciting. Um, but yeah, to get into some of my or to get back to this person that I was with, he is a tiny little person, right? Like Free Martin, like he would love working out all the time. I think he was on like human growth hormone and everything. Maybe I don't know, maybe steroids, but definitely human growth hormone. And I have this vivid memory of us, of me being a junior in college, and we were still buddies somewhat at that point. And he came over to my house, and I told him I just wanted to hang out. And he said, I want to go to a party. And I was like, well, okay, go to a party then. Like, I don't care. I don't really like partying. Like, it's not that fun to me. I don't want to get laid. I don't really, like, it doesn't do anything for me. And he just like promptly left. Like that's all he wanted to do. He didn't even he just basically saw me as a ticket. Like I'm this regular man and he's hanging out with me, and I stand out like a sore thumb. And he would steal alcohol at parties and it was awkward. And I had a handful of good times with this person. One of the most hilarious times was when we smoked cannabis in a one of those little tyke houses with the little sinks and such at a church. And then the church group comes in as we're doing it. We thought it was vacant. It was vacant when we got in there. And then within like 10 minutes, we're chilling there, hanging out, and there's a church group that comes in, and one of the chaperones, one of the adults, opens the door and just starts laughing his ass off because we're hotboxing. For those who don't know, it's when you have an enclosed area and you get high in it and enhances the effects. A little tyke's house. It was hilarious. I'll never forget that moment. And then the children get in, and it's a little stinky, so they probably took a minute. But yeah, I always thought it was one of the funniest moments in my life. We also got caught smoking in a porta potty that hadn't been used before, and we were rapping. But these are besides the point. Like those are some of the better memories I have with this person saying what it was, and like we also got stoned and and we went to the dining hall and he took the macaroni like in macaroni and cheese spoon with him to the table. Like he was so stoned he didn't even take his own silverware. He took the macaroni and cheese spoon and brought it with him to the table and started eating it. And I was just like, what in the world? You are so far gone. But those are some of the better memories. The worst memories I have um, at parties, it was that basically he only cared about that. There was also times with him where they would have somebody at the door, and he was so small he would sneak in and then ditch me. So I would end up like just go home, or I would go somewhere else and text him and be like, "Oh, I'm over here, like at the school, and let me know when you're done because you obviously are partying and trying to do what you got to do," which was usually quote unquote get laid or yeah, talk up some swire. And it just was all backwards. And he never cared about our relationship really. I tried showing him some like music I liked, and he didn't care. He only wanted to listen to like party anthems and stuff like that. It's just not that fun. Um, but yeah, like these feelings often come to mind, and I think if you're in college, it's often thought of as this rite of passage where you're doing these things a lot, pretty often, or at least somewhat often, so that yeah, you meet a partner or yeah, you get more socially engaged. But the version of yourself in alcohol, like I said, is just not who you are. So there's more stories to come. We'll get back into this though. So and now it makes me feel lame because on weekends while everyone is out, I'm at home. Oh no, sorry, I skipped the paragraph. So this has started to depress me because I find very few people on campus who are like me. Dating has sucked because almost every girl I've tried to talk to seems to be varying degrees like to do everything, like to do those things every weekend. I've been called lame just because I want to spend time alone. That's it. I mean, You should be able to do what you want. It's your weekend. You just worked. Usually people in college, or I mean just in general in life, they do a lot of stuff during the week and then they want to relax on the weekends. And if the impetus is to like work hard, play hard, you're always in this like high energy mode, and then it's antithetical to God, who always wanted to give us a day off. And you're spending that day off either hungover or yeah, just exhausted because you spent the time partying and being a wild version of yourself that wasn't even yourself. And I don't condone it. I don't think it's good. I worked for a group last year, and gardening team, whatever. And the person who I worked for, her husband, flippo relationship, sure, his beer monger or whatever. He makes and sells alcohol. Colorado is a high alcohol state. There's alcohol everywhere. They say it's because of the clean water from the snow melt and the clean and so forth. But I don't know why that may be like a part of it, but it's just a disgusting environment. And oh, maybe these people act like they're more social and they're more friendly, but I met this person, and this person has gout, very red, drinks like a whale, repeated himself all the time. We went over for the Christmas, or I shouldn't say Christmas. Yeah, basically, yeah, Christmas or like solstice type party. Last time I saw these people, really. And he told my daughter like 5 times, like, "Well, you're always welcome here." I'm like, dude, you said it. You don't need to say it like 15 times, because it was so awkward. I had nothing to say to these people. Like, I didn't like form serious bonds with them. Like, they weren't nice to me, really. I mean, they brought up nonsense and like Holocaust. I think I've referenced these people before. I have, and just clearly were putting digs on me because they're flippos and that's what they do. They don't like you. They hate you for existing, and they don't care about anything you say. And these people were vain, and it's just not that fun. Alcohol is so bad, and I've seen so many hellish experiences. That will be another video, but because I want to keep this just on alcohol, just more of on the partying idea. Yeah, usually also a big part of college partying was like beer pong. What else did people do? I remember there was this one party where they evacuated everybody because they wanted to reclaim their house by lighting a pair of pants on fire. It's just, it was funny in the moment, but they could have done it a different way. I guess they just couldn't get control of the crowd, so I think they just wanted to do it because it was funny. Um, but yeah, it was ridiculous. Um, yeah, but let's go back to this. Now it makes me feel lame because on weekends while everyone is out, I'm at home. I look on Instagram and everyone has tons of pictures of themselves out drinking and having fun. It really makes me feel like a dull, uninteresting, and frankly, worthless person. Who would want to date someone like me? What's worse is my hobbies aren't exactly flashy ones. I play video games and really enjoy philosophy. Philosophy isn't fun at parties. That was like me. I wanted to ask like weird questions and get to know people, and I felt like that wasn't the place. So often when you went to parties, they just ask you like the generic, what do you do for work? What's your job? Or like back in college, what's your major? Like, in like beyond that, I couldn't see back then, so I just didn't understand why people were so rude to me. I had one party I went to where within a minute of getting in there, some person, like a 6'2", 6'1" Free Martin, came up behind me and sucker punched me in the back, and then turned around, and I could just feel I knew who it was. I could tell I had never met this person, but they saw the real man at the party who walked in, and they punched me, and that was hardly the worst experience I've had at a party. But it was just that kind of energy a lot of the time, where hostile and uh, rude and exclusive, and it's not, and people you don't know, that you feel like you're you have to go communicate with them even though you have no inclination. You're not drawn to them in any way. Just the fact that you're at this a social event and they're in the same house and you both have a beer and yeah, there's of course you can find some common ground, but it was so vague, and it's the literally the definition of spreading yourself thin. You're getting in all these random conversations with people that you don't really know. Occasionally, maybe you get like a good one, but it is so rare and few and far between when it came to college for me. And then, yeah, the better situations are often smaller parties where it's more contained and easier to, and everybody has a shared interest, and it's like there's an actual emphasis that isn't so obviously alcohol. Maybe alcohol's there, but it's like a subtle thing in the background. And part of that is it comes with age. Like, when you like when people are young, often they have, like they said before, they have this impetus to go out and experiment and do things that they're gonna either regret or not, or heavily um, heavily consider going forward. And that's what I happened to me. Like I said, I've never drank alcohol under my own volition. It felt like it was only because of people I was around and the things that they were saying, peer pressure, and I always thought it tasted gross, just like my dad. Uh, and I mean, not, like I've talked about before, not really my dad, but the guy I call my dad, and even my mom, she would get drunk occasionally, but it was like few and far between. It wasn't such a big emphasis in our family. Um, but yeah, to keep going with this guy's take, so philosophy isn't fun at parties. It makes for insightful and very helpful conversations in small settings, but it's not going to win any contests for being an interesting area of interest. A bit redundant there, but whatever. I study Japanese as my second language, which has been what's opened me up to socializing the most. I made a lot of friends through learning Japanese, but even then, besides the novelty, it's not a very interesting interest. Oh, it's way more interesting than parties. And then compared to someone who plays 8 sports as a dancer, and none of that stuff, like athletic stuff, like you ever get to talking to people that are like athletic marvels, and they have nothing interesting to say. And they're not even marvels, it's just tea land, and everything's rigged, and the Swires are heavily estrogenized and they have their abilities limited, and the Martins are heavy testosterone and they have their abilities like falsely boosted, or HGH, and just all the weird drug cocktails they take. But I find learning Japanese or learning a language to be far more interesting than playing a sport. It's just, I mean, it's a personality thing. Sports can be fun, I think, in like small communities and away from the big circus, but it's, yeah, it's just as interesting at the very least, and I think it's more interesting. So I know but this is what college teaches you. College teaches you that, oh, all the people that are like in big sports and popular are like the best, and it just, no, it's like couldn't be farther from the truth. And we'll get into that. So I know this is a self-acceptance issue, but it's hard to accept myself when I find myself in an environment where everyone seems to have a common goal in mind, going out every weekend and getting drunk. And that's so much of it too, is it's just how recurring it was. And again, different schools are going to have different takes on this. Like I think, the smaller private schools or smaller schools, you're not going to find the impetus as strong. But where I went to school, like I suppose there's like 30,000 people that went there, graduate, undergrad, teachers, just all sorts of people, but a lot more people. And there was a pretty strong impetus to go up there on the hill and find a house party or get invited to a house party, which did happen to sometimes, but more often than not, it was just finding a house party, and that was normal. Um, and go in there and socialize and get drunk, and maybe if you're really lucky or if you're really in a good state of mind, then you get laid or you find somebody to go home with. And it was like I just got grossed out by that so many times. And there were like part of me just being the regular man I was. There was a situation where a girl on the hill just grabbed my hand and was like, "We're gonna be F buddies," and I was like, okay." And it was a gross person, just a gross swire, and took me back I went and took her back to my place, and we hung out a couple times, but nothing serious. And then she's overt with, she went to the bathroom and I was sitting on my little dorm bed freshman year, and she came back with like just her bra on, and the way I responded was just like, whoa, like I wasn't ready for it at all. Like there was no in between, there was no leading up, there was no romanticizing aspect. It was just 0 to 100, and was her response was just like the most deflated thing ever. And then I was so, I guess, like starved for loneliness that we did end up like doing it, but it was not good at all. Like just the ugliest, disgusting. Guess what college was a lot. Like it was just a disgusting, depraved experience, and just to like have these token experiences under your cap so that you have memories. It felt like that a lot of the time, and for like a lot of people, and for me, I was always on the outside looking in. You know, people just don't treat you well if you're a regular man. I know it's the truth. I'm not saying that I'm infallible. I definitely make mistakes, and I've done things that warranted poor behavior towards me. Sure. But like somebody I just met who doesn't know me at all, just ignoring me and being very overt with their programming dialect and just ugh. Anyways, there's more stories. That's not even. Like, this isn't even. I'm gonna get into it. Um, so I'm sorry for writing this novel. Oh, here you go. Sorry. I don't even have anything against alcohol. Well, I do. I've had it before and hated it. I also hate it. I'd rather smoke than drink because drinking makes me feel sick and out of control. Yes, that's the essence of it. You're not in your body anymore. Spirits. At least with marijuana, I still have agency and don't feel sick. Yes, but for me with marijuana, I didn't even want to go out and like socialize with a million people. It's like a couple people. I want to have a philosophical conversation. I don't care about being with a bunch of random people and like just like making the scene. And that's a big part of this too. Like, I'm about to get into this too at the film, making a scene in the film. It's like people emulate Hollywood in this nonsense. So I'm sorry for writing this novel, but I've been holding this one for a while now, likely because of this one girl I have a crush on who seems to almost completely ignore me because she's not worth it. She's fake and vain right now, having fun and drinking and stuff with her gazillion friends, and the gazillion friends she doesn't have a gazillion friends. She may have like one or two. It's just this phony idea that, oh, because she's like friendly or whatever, she has a million friends, and it's like they're acquaintances. It's just what they are. It's good to have a couple friends. It's not good to have like a bajillion because there's no way you're spreading yourself too thin. Um, and That's just the reality of it. Um, okay, so because I have a gazillion friends, I feel so isolated, and I feel like I don't have anyone to reach out to, especially in my peer group. Too long didn't read. Preferring solitude or small groups while being in your 20s sucks. And it does. Like, if you feel left out, there's that whole experience. And, um, it should, this video should, really speak to anybody that's gone through what I went through, maybe public school and college and beyond, of this impetus to just do this when it was never their intention. I never had the intention of drinking my whole life. Always thought it was gross. Never looked fun to me. But the only reason I did it was because other people were doing it, and there was this impetus to go out and to do it and feel like, I don't know, like work hard, play hard aspect where you had done all you needed to do in school all week or all you needed to do at work all week, and now you have the time to let loose, so to speak. All these, it's and you usually hear people, you let out the primal self or let out the real self that's been hidden within the beast within, and then just that whole disgusting thing. But it's like you're taking on spirits, so it is a beast. It is a demon. Spirit. It's like really, it's a demon that's taking over you. And people might want to say that, but because it would deter them, and they like their fake lives. But hey, you got to pull out of it. Parties are subjectively boring as hell. I mean, yeah, they are. I mean, some people might like aspects of them, or it depends on the party. But like again, like I said, if you have a really good framework for it, like we're all gonna go painting, or we're all gonna go, do Pictionary, or what I'm saying. There's a game. There's something not just beer pong, not just do it to get laid, and then like none of the guys are that comfortable because they're like trying to all get with these like two girls or a couple. It's just gross and not enjoyable. So here's this person says, yes, parties are boring or at the most dull ass shit, whatever. I've been to many parties and not once was I satisfied going. Yep. I usually left disappointed. All you really do is talk to either your friends or random people you either don't know about or don't care enough about. Drink, dance, sing with said people. I just think all that stuff is not interesting in the slightest. It's just the same BS over and over again with just different people. I'd rather just stay home and smoke weed than party with my friends. Yes, I could play a video game, that kind of as like my gift for taking the whole week of working the whole week would be like, all right, I'm gonna play a video game and get high and just get immersed in this world, or even like I don't do this, but like maybe D and Dungeons and Dragons is a very common, like you're playing a game, it's more involved, it uses the mind a little bit, it's creative. Parties just felt like this creative, like, what's the word, a creative death knell. There's nothing, it's just not enjoyable. Like that, like I talked about before, the person that lit the pants on fire, that was one of the most like awesome experiences because it ended what I hated, and it did it in such an awesome, funny way. Someone lit their jeans on fire, and I'm like, this is hilarious, and they quickly put it out, but it was just the way that it ended the annoying event of beer pong and awkward energy and ugh. So I know some people that love parties and are outgoing and enjoy that kind of stuff, but I'm just complete opposite. I prefer being alone, away from people, because that's how I have fun. I can't wrap my head around why people enjoy parties so much. They aren't all that, and I think there's these people that, for like, from like the free martin angle, there's a lot of them that they want to get like laid, they want to like meet some chick and pick her up and stuff, and don't even get me into clubbing, that is like purely what that's for. um i I went like clubbing once and it was terrible, on like a rooftop. It's too loud, you can't hear anything. um just no thanks. I know y'all might say, oh, you're just not going to the right parties, or you're not putting yourself out there enough to enjoy it. And I tell you what, been to every kind: quinceanera, frat parties, after parties, birthday parties, debuts. Try to talk to people, but I realize I don't care about any of these people. It's like there's not a shared interest. It's like, yeah, like if you're going and you have the good core, that's different. But and that technically is a party. It's too vague of a term. It's like saying drug when you're looking at something like cannabis and heroin. Like it's just not. You need more depth, because that doesn't tell you anything. It's just something that's going to change your mind or change the way you are feeling. It's not. It's not. It's a too vague of a term. Parties a pretty vague term. Like there definitely are like small group gatherings that I've had that were more enjoyable. It's not, I'm not saying all parties are just dog crap. It's just like your generic party is not fun ever. Um, but I realize I actually don't care. Point is to talk to random people you'll most likely never meet again. That's it too. I mean, like I would be like surprised sometimes when I would see some random person and then see them at another party and be like, oh, I'm like actually do have to go talk to them again, or I should say something. But never had an inclination when I was sober, or I mean, just in general, never. Even if I was a little bit tipsy or something, I didn't have the strongest inclination. It was just, oh, I'm at a party, so therefore. So someone responded to this person and said, "You're not interested in talking to your friends or other people? Man, I'm an introvert and borderline hermit. But talking to people is pretty much the only reason I stick around this plane." So they're just plain as day. They're talking about the reality of us living on a plane. I don't even really like going to parties or anything, but I can't imagine not being interested in talking to my friends. That You don't have to go to a party to do that. Like that's the go hiking, go anything. Like it's way more fun. Some sort of activity, some sort of, not just, oh, there's alcohol here, alcohol there. We got the crappy music playing, and there's a backyard, and you can kind of wander around, and it's just boring. But then again, the parties I go to usually have at least a few joints being passed around, the very least. Never been to a house party that didn't have a stoner room. And someone writes a couple down. Um, Honestly, it's just a good show of community. I know that's pandering or whatever, and we hate that here, but I don't mind pandering to my friends occasionally. They're good people who make my life better by being in it. Showing up to events outside of our normal routine helps foster better bonds. Obviously, you can't just, work your job and that's it. That's your life. Like you could, I mean, technically you could do that, but it is like it does help to go out and break your routine a little bit and do something that's spontaneous or ostensibly spontaneous and open up your world a little bit. Showing up to events outside of our normal routine helps foster better bonds. Plus, I've met some of my best people on the stoner couch at the house party. So, yeah, I talked about that too. I was more of that crowd, and I'm getting less and less of that crowd every day. So, I can't relate as much now. I love my dreams, so I'm trying to give that up. Or I'm not trying. I'm giving that up. And even then, I would have rather like gotten high and or had some cannabis and gone frisbee golfing or gone on a walk or hike. It's just or played some music or etc. It's not fun to just sit in a room and talk. I don't even like talking like that much. I like doing an activity while we're doing it. Like I mean, sometimes I do. Sometimes it's important and good to do, but to just sit there and talk for hours is boring. Some people like that, but I don't know. I feel like people get redundant and they end up saying the same stories over and over again. Um, so going forward here, and for what it's worth, I really mean once in a while nowadays. Talking dropping into a party for an hour or two a couple times a year at this point. 99% of my socializing is one on one, and it still leaves me winded. That's true for me too. Like I I wouldn't say winded, but it's enough. Like I go to my clients, my gardening clients. I go meet people and stuff, and that's all. That's enough for me outside of my partner. And I'm older now. I'm 31, but um, it's still plenty. I feel, and I don't need to go out on the weekend and get drunk and have a hangover. I hated hangovers. I'll never forget the Cayenne cleanse. It's some kombucha that I had that like quickly pulled it out. So if you are drinking, I mean, peppers, something to kick out that feeling would be probably something that would clean out your sinuses, like a cayenne pepper. And yeah, if you're gonna drink, which I don't recommend at all, get out of the hangover feeling by maybe having a cayenne beverage or something that's just really strong. Ginger probably is great, I'd imagine. Uh, like a strong ginger beer or ginger ale would probably do wonders for that. Drinking lots of water and probably vitamin C as well. But yeah, cranberry juice, of course. Cranberry juice is very astringent, good for removing whatever it is from your body. Cranberry juice might be number one. Very astringent. Um, but yeah, just not fun unless, like I said, I was like high or something. So now I want to tell you one of my most ridiculous partying stories. So, like I said before, there were a couple of fraternities that were more open. They would open their doors to anybody. The majority were, like I said, the ratio thing, and even then they wouldn't let you in. Just very gross behavior. And I got in a couple times and just felt awkward and would leave quickly. But this one fraternity was pretty decent, let people in, and they had pails of was gin and tonic with lime. And I had a couple cups of this, and it was just so strong that I was rolling. And then in addition to that, there was a toking room or a smoking room. And I smoked some pot in a circle with people and passed the bowl around or whatever. And then at that point, I was feeling woozy and crazy. And I told the people that I had went with, like, I'm gonna go back. Like, I need to recalibrate. And I don't know. I always had great confidence in myself as a just being mobile and being able to run around and do whatever. And now I know it's because I'm a regular man. And Free Martins just have a totally different body. They're uh, totally different engine, totally different machine they're working with. Um, so I was just way more flexible with that, where they would have to take their time. And I left, and there was this little cafe that stayed open at the university, Um, it would stay open till like 3 in the morning, and I went there as I was super drunk, super high, and I ordered a calzone and I ordered a gelato ice cream, and I ate like half of it and felt really woozy and took the bus back to from there after walking from the hill to this little cafe. Took the bus back to the dormitory, and oh boy, so we get to the I'm feeling woozy. We get to the stop before my stop. It's maybe, a minute or two before I am going to be just in the clear. And I'm feeling it. I drank all that alcohol. I had smoked that pot. I had eaten the calzone. I had eaten the ice cream. And all those things blended together. I, I barfed on the bus. And this is one of those buses that has it's really long, and it has these connective joints within it that are they're like corrugated, and and there was this couple of Asian girls that were maybe like 20 feet ahead of me, and like three, maybe like five sets of seats, something like that. And there's very few people on this bus. It's probably like 1 in the morning, and I throw up. I'm sitting, but I do it while I put my arm up, and so you couldn't see what I was doing. I was very subtle about it. I just like threw up because I had to, and I'm watching this throw up go down, go down the bus, and I'm there. We're just pulling into the stop before my stop, and I'm watching this throw up go down, down, and it's about to hit these girls' shoes, and I run out the door and I say, "I'm so sorry, I threw up on you." And I knew the throw up had to the back of their shoes, and I ran. And that was the other thing too, is I felt like alcohol, like not being yourself and all that. It like it ruined my normal sense of courage. Like people say, oh, people drink to kind of get over that. That's why people drink. That's the main reason people drink, is to get over that hump. It's like the icebreaker. But the reality is like it makes you socially awkward when you're not doing it. That's one of the main issues among millions of being an alcoholic or drinking alcohol, is that you need it. You feel like you might need it, or it would be helpful for you to socialize, when that's the furthest thing from the truth. It's going to inhibit your socialization because you can't communicate as well. So I'll never forget that one. That one was disgusting. That was a really bad story. And one of my uh, better friends in college, still like distant arm's length because it's a free Martin. Um, he got plastered at a party and was like barely, like he was there, he was like present, sort of, but would take a minute to respond, and his eyes looked glazed over. It didn't look so good. Well, as a collective, we all walked to this apartment complex and got in the hot tub there. And he got in the hot tub in his Superman underwear. And the hot tub, plus all the alcohol he had had, made him extraordinarily drunk. And then he jumped out of the hot tub and ran like 2 miles home in his underwear. And it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And then we get back to the dormitory, and we're in our, like, the commons, and he gets back to the room we're hanging out in. That the door's open, so it felt like the commons. And at the threshold of the door, he starts urinating in front of everybody. Pees right in front of everybody, doesn't care, just is like looking up and smiling, and he's just so drunk. And it was funny. It's like some of the funniest things you'll ever see happen with drunk people, because it's so foreign to the native way people behave when, or the natural people way people behave when they're themselves. But just the glazed over like look in his eye and all that, it was kind of sad too to see that. And yeah, he peed in front of everybody on the floor when the bathroom was down the hallway. Just ridiculous, right? So furthermore, yeah, this is another one. People who only drink and party are boring. Sorry, but there are too many people who call way too many people friends. That's, yeah, vague. Years later, they realize that these people were just friends for parties. Like that's it. Like that's, you just get drunk together. You have no real bond. Most of them are boring because they only talk about how drunk they were. So superficial. I agree with this. It's just part of what you do, then have at it. But I've been around people that went out most days a week. All they ever talked about was what they did when they were drunk, what the drama of the night was, and how someone got really drunk and did something stupid, awkward, downright mean. And then a lot of complaining about having a hangover and planning to go out again the same night. It's expensive, so they always complain about being broke. And I think it's kind of sad that they had nothing other than getting drunk to do. This is what this guy I talked about earlier, he's like 50 something years old and that's all he does. Like, it's disgusting. He's never left that mindset. And I don't care what your monetary situation is or how it looks on the outside, that's disgusting. So this I love this word. So this person, what this Phil Rabat had to say. Agreed. Their lifestyles are telegenic. So I didn't know what that word meant. Telegenic, having an appearance or manner that is appealing on television. Phony. They want they give you a phony version of themselves, and that's what they're looking for, is the phony version. What's supposed to look good on TV, or it's not genuine. It's telegenic and photogenic without being cool. Lots of charismatic people with great salesman personas, but nothing interesting about their personhood. No obvious and blatant personality and fashion quirks. No sense you'll get a really worthwhile conversation from them that you'll remember for years to come. None of that. And had a profound positive impact on your life. No sense that you can drop your front, be your considerably less than perfect self and not get judged or something like that. Something's missing. That's it. It's not you. They're great at showbizzing things up, though. I'll give them that. Unfortunately, charisma, photogenic stage presence, and telegenic lifestyles based on imagery and little else don't really offer a fulfilling life. The closest people there are to party animal types I've seen that don't qualify for such two-dimensionalism, they tend not to make a big deal out of partying at all. That's true too. It's like, if you're gonna have a party, it's just a casual thing. It's not supposed to be this big event that you do all the time and like you're thinking about all the time. Because a lot of college was that. People would sit in classes and pretend to be there studying, but they have their laptop in front of them. They're playing a game. They're looking at sports scores, or they're looking at a music website or whatever, at a website that has nothing to do with the class they're in. And the whole time they're talking with their buddy about what party they're going to go to. So they're not even present. And they certainly don't have going out to party, get drunk, or get laid as the highlight of their week. And even less do they have it as a topic of bragging. Don't expect them to spend their spring breaks in Daytona or some other wild party animal spot. A boring lifestyle with hobbies, boring to most, but interesting for you, is a long-term best way to spend your weekends. Yes, doing what you want to do, what you're inclined to do, that's like, you've already worked. You've put in your hours. You put in your time to help the world, whatever, what you're doing. Why would you take your time to just continue in the vague worldliness? That's what partying has always felt like to me. It's like this vague worldliness. Oh, I've got to go out and meet people that I don't care about, and start up a conversation and get to know people. And it never helped me. It never felt good, and it was always under this phony veneer of drinking alcohol. Just gross. My freshman year roommate, we reconvened. I think it was either junior or senior year. I don't recall which. But I got to this house party. He happened to be there, and all he's talking about is these three different, I now know, Swire girls that he's going to that he thinks he's gonna be with. He's like, I have all their numbers, and I'm just trying to decide which one. I literally told him, I was like, you should pick one, the one that you get along with best. Like, why are you trying to score with all of them? And it was like an unacceptable answer to him. And maybe he was just trying to show off and be annoying to me. And then shortly thereafter, another person that was in my dorm came up to me and was whispering to me. He's like, "You're a pussy. You're a, I hate using that word, but you'll never get laid. You're never gonna get what you." I'm like, I already have been, and what are you doing? Just trying to put me down, belittle me. That's what they do. Like, that's what these ugly Free Martin do. He would always throw the gang signs. Very Masonic person. His dad, Free Martin dad, is in the Senate or something. Just fake people, fake showbiz. These telegenic lifestyles. Fake people. And then my roommate was on HGH and was raging all the time, like just hard to be around. Considered Arnold Schwarzenegger to be like the pinnacle of human life, and just sad and depraved. And I hope they're better now, but they were so vain back then. I doubt that they've let go of that completely, even though it's been over a decade, or not. since we graduated, I guess. It's been about a decade. And I couldn't stand it. It was so fake and forced and phony. So what's worth mentioning is that it's not sustainable at all. There will come a time when they have to accept that the parties won't fit into their schedules, and the older you get, the harder it is to recover. That's true too. It's only really viable for a short amount of time, and that's maybe it too. Is people think, well, I have this short window, and especially if you're a T, you have a really short window because you're taking hormones on top of it. Like, I'm saying all this as somebody who wasn't taking hormones, who wasn't doing HGH, who wasn't doing all this stuff. If you're doing all that, plus you got alcohol, plus you got the partying, man, oh man, I can't imagine how that ravages your body. Plus, I mean, some of these Free Martin, I think a lot of them have these appendix, quote unquote, right? Saw my Duckman appendectomy video. Like, they give birth eventually because they can, and it's just a completely flipped society. So not only are they're harming their womb, it's insane, and then that gets even more gross. So these people start losing their hair, and they're looking like trash by the age of 30 because their lifestyle is so ridiculous. But why would you want? It's one of those things. It's like, why are you trying to do all this stuff while you're young? Why wouldn't you be healthy while you're young, so that when you're older you appreciate that you were healthy? And that's the reality. That's what I want to. This main part of this video, what I really want to emphasize is just don't do it. Like, you stick to your, so to speak, stick to your guns. Like, do what you want to do. The boring thing over the weekend. That it's not even boring. It's way more interesting than parties. Because you're going to learn more from that, and maybe hang out with a few friends and get to know them better, because you're going to have way more meaningful relationships. Parties suck. They're vague, telegenic people, is just the common thing, and they're not themselves, and you can tell. I am an extrovert myself and very charming, but I really don't want to waste money or my time into something so superficial and pointless. I mean, having fun every now and then is great, but doing it constantly is pathetic. And it's pathetic. And it's like they want to like stand out and have a crowd, and I hated it. I hope you understand I'm not downing every charming extroverted type, nor am I judging parties per se. The type I'm judging are those who take a really arrogant attitude towards people who prefer a nice quiet. That was it too. It felt like that. Like I referenced it earlier. The little friend I had who he wanted to party no matter what. He treated me like dog crap if I didn't want to do it. And I'm like, dude, who cares? Like, it's just not that fun to me. I don't like alcohol. I don't like the hangover. I don't like. It's not fun. I'd rather get high and just hang out. And he's like, well, I want to go party and get laid. And I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He was 21 years old. Like, I hope he's changed, but it is just disgusting and depraved. And I think he was a plant. And yeah, wore the Obey shirt all the time. So I know he was. It's just this whole legion of evil people we've been surrounded by. And pursue non-alcohol, non-sex hobbies and interests over the wild party lifestyle. They'll even call them, if male, boring at best and a sissy wimp. That's what I should have called it before. At worst. You sound like you've got reasonably good balance about things, though. You give the impression that there's more than one appropriate way of being human. Yeah, it's generic, it's fake, it's ridiculous. Someone wrote, I'm in my late 30s now. I've done a lot of thinking. It's JoJo, so you know what that means. I actually think that drinking and drugging is made to be cool in a sort of attempt to keep middle class and below people down. So I already said that, but I completely agree. Drinking is gross. Beer is the well in the Bible. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's for us. I think it's poison. Even the quote unquote healthier varieties, wine. I never liked wine. It doesn't taste good to me. It tastes like poison. So why drink it? And I don't. So think about it. How many of you, and myself included, would be much further along if you never drank or did drugs? Drugs is vague. Drugs is coffee, so I don't consider that. Like, it's like I said, drugs is way too vague of a term. And then further along, I mean, this is tea land, so if you're not in the tea, you kind of you're very limited. It's just the truth. I'm sorry, like they don't allow you into the upper echelon quarters, and you shouldn't want that. So being further along doesn't mean anything to me. It means more so like your health, and like further along in the social sense means nothing to me, I guess is what I meant. It means your health and your your acumen, like your capacity to really share things and learn and present ideas, it will be stronger, yeah, if you're drinking less alcohol. There's no doubt about it. That's something I try to tell every young person I encounter. Don't waste your youth on shit that won't matter later. For most people, there will be plenty of time to enjoy it, but it's far better when you have money. Personally, I've never been much of a drinker and thought parties were okay, but not something to get super excited about. I can see that perspective, I guess. Like, just they're okay, not a big deal. That's definitely a healthier way to view it. But so many people, when I was that age, they viewed it as like the ultimate. It was like the biggest part of their week, the best part of their week. They wanted to put a lot of emphasis on it, do something crazy, and then come back to school with all those stories, and then spend their Monday, Tuesday, maybe even Wednesday talking about all that crazy stuff. And then, oh, what do you know? Thursday, Friday is rolling around again, and we're back on the train, and we're getting drunk as a skunk, and not just because it rhymes, and uh, doing vapid, idiotic beer pong again. And listening to crappy dubstep. Oh, I can't stand dubstep. So many of their musics is just garbage, and that's one of the hardest parts I think of waking up to all this stuff is like dropping the music. It's just, there's so much crappy or outright satanic music. But that's not this video. That's another one, and it's just there's so many better things you can be doing with your time and that are better for people in the long run to heal. Like alcohol is just overall a negative thing. It's harming your body and therefore harming everybody else around you because you're not as capable of helping and being a source of good. And it's obvious. And cannabis is too. It's just, in my opinion, at this point, it's the same thing. It's just to a lesser extent, in my opinion. But again, it depends on the person and how often you're using it. It's everybody's unique, right? And then how your body responds to it too. A lot of similarities, but people do have different responses to different substances. And yeah, there's no way you can smoke pot every day and live a good, healthy lifestyle. There's just I can't fathom that, and that the idea of smoking is now it's greatly reduced in my mind as being a good or interesting thing, and they often will set up the whole like Gandalf, like wizened old person smoking as this sort of thing to look up to, but it isn't. It's it's phony. Yeah, and then yeah, if you make it your main emphasis, yeah, of course you're gonna be boring. Duh. Who cares about it? What are you like, some socialite, like Kim Kardashian type, ugly, disgusting, depraved, fake person in every way? Met so many people at school like this. All they can talk about is what guy or girl they hooked up and danced with. It's just disgusting. They think about partying, talk to their friends about memories of last night, and work to buy pot and alcohol. It's all centered around it. It was so common. And like I said, it depends. If you, on the school angle, it depends where you go, but not. I mean, it seems like every school kind of does this, at least in America, to some extent. And then beyond, I mean, people keep doing it. Like I said, these 50-year-olds that I'm hanging, they still do it. Like every week they're doing it, and it's just they still are in that mindset. They're still in high school. They're still trying to get these highs and do something ridiculous and say something shock jock so to get a laugh and form a memory, and it's they're not themselves and they're phonies and they look disgusting and they have all these ailments and problems because they're not healthy because their emphasis is partying. Everyone and their mother does it. That's the other thing too. Also, you aren't wild and crazy if you don't drink underage and smoke. Everyone in their, oh sorry, you aren't wild and crazy if you drink underage and smoke. Everyone and their mother does it. So it's not that it's like it stands out. It's a common thing for people to try. You're not interesting because you're doing it. I'm not saying you shouldn't be trying to be interesting. You should be yourself. Like trying to be interesting is very much a T thing, or clubby, I should say. Being a T is not. It's like being a clubby. And nothing wrong with going on weekends, but please have some other hobbies or interests. It makes you boring and all your friends boring. If you want a good relationship or friendship, meet someone who shares the same interests as you. Then when you go and get schmack together, it's that much more fun. Yeah, that's true. Like, I mean, I don't like alcohol ever, but if I was going to do it, why not do it with somebody that already is like lock in the key with me? Why would I do it with people that I don't know or care about? And that's it. It's just the partying is the center. It's just, I guess a lot of people are still going to go through the same rigmarole that I went through, and I hate it. I want it to end. My daughter, I'm going to very sternly explain to her what like this stuff, but also sometimes more loosely explain it because she needs both sides of. I just don't enjoy it. It's not fun. It's toxic. It's poison, and it's put on us. I think that many people have said it, and it's down. It's made to make you dumb and keep you in the same mindset, and you don't care about deeper goals and knowledge creation. You're just parroting things and trying to have the most ridiculous night. It's just vain and idiotic. So I work with mostly women. Who knows, right? Probably it could be a lot of swear. And I can say for certain that this is all I hear about them. I'm so broke. Can I have one of your shifts this week? Not even an hour later. So this is more like after college, I think. I'm going. This is more like the. This is where it gets bad. Like you need to grow up, or so to speak, or you need to get out of this. Like that experimental phase. A lot of people will give people that. Like, okay, you had this experimental phase and you saw what was wrong with it, and now you're a better person. You don't do that anymore. But if you're still doing it, like I mentioned, these 50-year-old people that are still drinking alcohol all the time, this is what it looks like. I'm going out tonight. We will start at insert shitty bar name here and end up at even more disgusting bar. My second favorite is all of the parents I work with. I'm not going to be able to buy presents this year. I need more shifts. The next day, I don't even remember last night. I got so effed up. It becomes so normal. It's part of their diet. Like that's the essence of it. It's their routine. It's it should be something that maybe you do once in a blue moon, and it's like, oh great, and then oh, and now I don't, I have months and months between that kind of event, and I don't have to, or you just don't even do it. And the next day, I don't even remember last night. I got so effed up. True, you do, but if you don't have money, you don't have money. Some say it's the nature of the restaurant business, but I'm perfectly happy that I never fell into that aspect of it. It's just disgusting, and there's worse drugs. Cocaine, I didn't even talk about. I took cocaine when I was 20 years old. I only took cocaine that year. It was like the 1920, like that out, like it was a year in time. And I never liked it, and I never bought it. It was just someone had it and was like, "Hey, do you want?" And then I was like, "Okay," but dumb and just experimental. And it probably has inhibited my sense of smell. I That one's just pure evil. Like that's way worse than alcohol. It's like hyper caffeine plus this like sense of what I noticed in myself and many people is like elitist kind of energy. Like you think you're like above everything, and it's disgusting. And people, yeah, that's just a general high thing. But the cannabis high was always way more appealing to me. Felt way healthier, relaxed compared to, oh, we're gonna get worked up and go crazy and do a million things. Like Adderall and cocaine are pretty similar. And I've never taken Adderall speed, but that's amazing given my drug history or whatever, my history with substances, that I've never taken Adderall or speed. But the way I've seen it is just, it's not interesting to me. It looks disgusting. And the people that take it, they're not all there. So, yeah, it's boring. I've been saying the same thing, and these people are saying the same stuff over. Here's this one's kind of funny. It's boring because it's a common and really unhealthy lifestyle overall. It's not novel or unique or endearing or interesting. It's also generic radio music. That's such a big part. I rarely ever got the time to like put the music playlist on, and when I did, I was so happy because I'm like, I'm actually interested in music. So many of these people, they just listen to the radio and they don't think about music on a deeper level. They're just giving you the generic crap that everybody gets. If you turn on the number station, it's just I hate radio. It's so toxic. Um, I live in Miami, and every other douchebag or douchebagette, that's funny, douchebagette, has the same story every day. Went to the club, listened to shitty music, F the drunk person. It's the kind of thing that's not interesting to anyone but the people involved. I don't want to hear about you screwing somebody. It's just gross. Like you should be finding a person that you love and telling me about what you guys do together and what makes you guys happy and passionate. And maybe that sounds weird to somebody who's like 20 years old and is in the thick of this phase of their life, but like all the experimentation and all that stuff. But yeah, it's just in the long run in life, like I don't care about that stuff. I care about, hey, like how do you and your partner bond? What do you guys do? Because, you know, I got to get out of saying that. Growing up, my parents didn't bond well at all, so I was not used to a loving relationship. Seeing that, I saw it occasionally with other parents, but even then, they're teas, and so much of them's fake. So you shrug your shoulders. But that's what's more important. That's what's interesting. It's not interesting to go to a party and get laid by random people, and that's your life. Oh, I go. In a lot of these people, it's just like sports, party, ski. For me, we're in Colorado. Ski, party. Barely do the bare minimum of work. Try to get out of all the work as much as you can. It's disgusting. It's a totally backwards mindset to where I want to create. Instead, I want to create knowledge. I want to do something that's helpful, and I'm not going to be very helpful if I'm partying. So another one. This is Bong Lord 420, so you can see where they lean. This is literally what I was just thinking about and just about to post. The subject is exactly why I'm on Reddit right now. My entire school, all they effing talk about, oh, I'm that sick bro because I go to mad parties and F mad bitches and get pissed every 2 seconds. That was it too. So many of these Martins are just like roided out, disgusting, trying to get laid. They're in fraternities. They're not fun to be around. They're not fun people to hang out with. They just aren't. They're not enjoyable. They're not endearing. They don't care about you. They're looking at you like you're some sack of meat, and they hate you for existing. I mean, if you're a regular person. So why would you go? And then beyond that, they're trying to get laid. They're not interested in talking. They're looking past you for some swire that's all dolled up, and it's gross. It's so insecure, um, that I constantly post shit stories about how I'm effing loose. That was so like that was a big part of social media in those days. Was like, oh, look at me and my beer, look how like edgy I am and cool and it's just now I look at it, I'm like, no, you were depraved and you were lost and you were broken and you were trying to look cool, but you were a shallow version of yourself. Group in my school that constantly talks about being in a band, but their band is terrible and all their shitty songs are basically like I play music and wear Jimi Hendrix bandana because it's totally chill surfer vibes. And that's the truth too. Is like they're trying to be caricatures. Like I remember there was this party where they had like Barbra Streisand's paintings and portraits everywhere around the house, and they were playing that Barbra Streisand song. I'm like, what the heck? This is like this is literally idol worship. Like this is, and back then I thought it was awkward and I didn't like have the words, but now I can plainly say, idol worship, disgusting behavior. Don't follow the people of Jerusalem because they're all highway to hell people doing strange Victor Victoria. That's the Mary Poppins actress person, Victor Victoria, like plainly telling you they're a T type movie, um, because it's all depraved and disgusting and about the ego. That's what this ultimately comes to is it's egocentric BS instead of good for the collective and more engaging and creative and enjoyable. I just hate it. So yeah, this is the last one here. I'm trying to think if I have any other really just I have another story, but it basically just winds up in me being way too drunk and having to be helped home because I could barely walk. Like and I drank too much hard alcohol, and it was again the same time. Like it was all this college year crap, and after that, in the latter college years, I didn't even do it. I was just hated it. It was just pot for me. No more alcohol because it was so gross. And psychedelics, I liked psychedelics way more back then, um, because I didn't know about all this lying and all this club. Didn't know. Just thought I was like everybody else, and no, so different. We're so different than them. So, yeah, I hope you aren't partying. I hope you're not doing this generic what people like Animal House. I think of as like a really token movie for this, or a token like well-known thing for this is just disgusting and depraved. And stop doing it. It's no one cares about it at heart. It's it's not good for anybody. I want to completely oust this from the world. I hate it. College should not be what this is. It's so often that, though. They just go to school and they party, and it's generic and lame, and they have terrible music. It's not interesting. It doesn't propel hearts and minds forward. That's what you should be trying to do. And if you, and again, like, oftentimes it's the weekend. So why aren't you relaxing or doing what you finally want to do after you've given your time to the community, or you're giving your time to your job, or whatever it is you're doing? Why would you go to some event like this? So please stop doing it if you are, and find a healthier way of spending your free time.